Hi, I'm Dan Bryan and welcome to the first series of Real Impact, the new podcast where we explore how organisations communicate with creativity and impact. Today, we're diving into internal comms and engagement, how organisations connect with their people, create a sense of belonging and keep everyone informed and inspired. Joining me is Nic Marshall, People Director at Welcome Break, one of the UK's leading motorway service area operators with over 5,000 team members across 53 sites and 31 hotels. Nic is a chartered CIPD HR professional with deep experience in large, fast-paced businesses and a passion for what makes people tick. Her role covers the full people agenda, from culture and well-being to talent, engagement and organisational change, with internal comms woven through it all. Nic brings a grounded perspective, especially in the day-to-day reality of reaching shift-based, multi-location teams, most of whom aren't sitting at desks. We'll explore why one size never fits all and how the quality of internal comms has to reflect external comms if you want to be taken seriously. We'll discuss why trust is the unlock for creativity and humour and why authenticity matters more than polish. We'll also touch on the role of AI as an enhancer, not a replacement, and the power of listening. This is a short, honest conversation full of insight. We hope it sparks new ideas in you. Nic, welcome. Thanks so much for joining me here in what is our first series of Real Impact.
Oh, Dan, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So today we're going to be talking about comms and engagement and digging into a bit about your experiences, hopefully taking some learnings from that. But I have to say, it's really weird for me being this side of the camera with you.
I can imagine. Now you know how I feel.
Yeah, exactly. So like I was just saying off camera, I didn't expect to feel this level of nerves. So I'm sorry for everything I've put.
You will be fine.
Thank you.
As you tell me every time. Just get on with it.
Exactly. So let's get straight into it. You obviously throughout your career so far, you've worked in many different sectors and different organisations. From a comms and engagement perspective, have the challenges been consistent throughout, or have they been different sector by sector?
Yeah. So my entire HR career has been in hospitality of some fashion. So right now I'm at Welcome Break, which is a motorway services business, as a franchise operator. But I've worked in hotels, bars, restaurants, nightclubs, coffee shops, etc. And so what we have is a frontline workforce that are offline. So 85% of our team, particularly at Welcome Break, are they're offline. They are not sat behind a desk. They've not got their mobile phone in their hand because they're supposed to be serving customers, right? So how you get to affect and get the message down, no matter what that be, to, I know for me, 5,000 team members who, don't have access to a device on a day-to-day basis or an hour-by-hour basis at some point, that is the critical piece. And that I think that's probably the biggest challenge that I've seen. Back in the day, fax machines, I am that old, and now it used to be a poster on the wall, and then, was it post? Was it a poster? Then the internet comes along as much more prevalent, websites, intranet pages, etc. And now we've got a whole suite of comms and engagement tools that are available to us, from dedicated apps and platforms to SharePoint type intranets to video content and podcasts and everything that goes alongside it, which what we want to do is be able to give it to our teams when they want and need to consume it. So we want to be able to have a medium whereby we can push stuff out, but that they can consume it when they can and at their convenience.
You said back in the day it was about fax machines and posters on the walls, but nowadays there's lots of different ways and lots of different channels to engage with colleagues through. So do you need is the role of comms teams or the responsibilities much larger? Do you need bigger teams or more multi-skilled individuals? What does that look like?
I don't necessarily think you need a bigger team. I certainly don't need a bigger team. my comms manager, Leo, would tell you he would take extra headcount to report to him every day. And we all would. And the bigger the team that you've got, the more you can do, right? But budgets don't stretch to that all the time. But I think the role of a comms manager and a comms team now is much more multifaceted than it was. Like, we're not reliant on print and digital media anymore and getting newsletters out via the post that sit in a team room. We are reliant on putting tools in people's hands when they want it, when they want to consume it. And so, at the moment now, that could be video content, that could be a podcast, that could be a poster, it could be a newsletter. And, but AI coming down the line also means that we are much more conversed in using, like PowerPoint is almost dead. Like Canva and the like have come along and, made that much more digital. And actually, even now, I feel like I'm a bit out of the loop with stuff because actually it does move on and it moves along at pace in that world. But we're also not the expert in everything. So, and neither do I expect us to be. And to stay on top of all of those different trends and what people want and how they want to consume content is you have to bring your suppliers in at the right point. So when do we use somebody that's a bit more of an expert? Like in terms of our own in-house design team with our marketing team, when do we get them to design something that we can't do? Or when did we bring somebody in like yourselves to do our video content for us? Because we don't have the time or the resources or the expertise to do some of that.
This might be a controversial opinion and maybe a bit risky to talk about, but I think sometimes certainly not a welcome break, but sometimes internal comms content can be seen as a bit stale and dated. But like the way people consume content like changes like rapidly and behaviors. Why do you think there's such a imbalance between, I suppose, like external media and comms channels and the way just humans consume content versus internally how companies do it? Well, why does that the way of doing it not change quicker?
I think some of that comes down to leadership. And what we see is when it comes to delivering an internal comms message, some leaders are particularly nervous about what you commit to. What you write becomes tomorrow's chip paper. What's on video content stays around for a lot longer. And I think certainly over the last 5 years, we've done a lot more over video over the last 5 years, particularly post-pandemic. And even our own style of what we do to video, what we do to camera, what we do as kind of more natural lifestyle type shots is so completely different to where we were 5 years ago. And genuinely, I think there's probably a piece of how do you get across genuine and authentic leadership without feeling, as you said earlier, like nervous about it or self-conscious or did I say the right thing? Because it's committed then. And so moving along with the times, but I think it's also driven by your workforce. So we have quite a young workforce. 50% of our team is under the age of 30. And so, but it also means 50% of our team is over the age of 30, but that over the age of 30 spans a 50-year bracket. And so what we need to look at is where is the majority of our demographic and how might they consume that? And do we need to move with the times a lot quicker? We have 70 different nationalities that work for us, which means that's potentially 70 plus different languages. So I'm not going to translate everything from an internal comms message into 70 different languages. But what we need to think about is, of those different languages, written comms might not be the best because the translation piece gets lost. And actually what people tend to do is consume more via video content to be able to disseminate that and then play that back to themselves rather than reread it. And I think what we've seen more so is the difference now between short video content and slightly longer video content. We try not to do anything more than 3 minutes because that's what will hold someone's attention span for. But we've also played around with 30 to 45 seconds. And actually, there are sometimes we need to get a 6 or 7 minute content out to people.
Are there any other trends, more so in the digital space? So we've spoken a lot about video, but podcasts are becoming more popular as a tool in internal comms, and also the big one on everyone's mind is AI. Are any of those trends influencing Welcome Break and the way you approach comms and engagement?
Well, we did our first podcasts about 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, or 23. And we introduced them as Pridecasts. So we did a series of podcasts ultimately, but around the month of Pride to really drive our LGBTQ community and some awareness, bearing in mind that we had a senior leadership team member who, as will happily know that part of that community, wanted to make sure that everybody at Welcome Break that was part of the LGBTQ community felt that they were included and they felt that they belonged. And so we started doing a series of podcasts like a couple of years ago. We did series 2 last year. We'll do series 3 this year. And they started with things like, what does it mean to be an ally? To last year sharing stories of what does it mean to be a single gay dad, right? And we'll take that to the next level again this year. And so we've dabbled with podcasts. And we will absolutely make more of that, because I think we can really start to introduce that into our learning technologies and how do people learn. AI is going to take over, and we're comfortable enough with it, I think, in terms of we are playing around with it. We're using it in different places. I also think you've got right at this stage, we still need to play it a little bit safe, in terms of particularly around generative AI. You can't always trust it, and where does it pick up its information from? But the more you use it and the more it consumes, the more it starts to understand your tone of voice, the business tone of voice, the particular leadership authenticity tone of voice. I think where I want to see it used, particularly at Welcome Break, is adding to the things that we do, not taking away from it. I wouldn't want to necessarily see it replace a job or a role, because I don't think we'll get to that. But actually, how do we use AI particularly to make our lives and our jobs easier and to enhance our content, help us write, how do we help it write us content and then tweak it or give us prompts and ideas, things that, if we're going to talk about comms inclusion, what are the latest trends? Let's have a look. We can't be experts in all of it all the time. So I think it's going to change massively, and it's going to continue to change, particularly the world of comms and engagement. Because I think everybody looks at this and says, I could do that.
Yeah,
I could write that.
yeah, yeah. And it's developed further than that now. There's a tool that can generate AI videos of you. So I tried. I didn't like it, but I tried. I took a photo of me, and it recorded my voice, and then I said, "Can you talk about XYZ?" And then it produced a minute video of me talking, and it sort of sounded like me,
It's scary.
sort of didn't, sort of looks a bit fake. But from a comms engagement point of view, what that isn't is genuine and authentic. And no matter how good that tech is, it's never ever going to be as genuine and as authentic as a real person. And linked to that point, how do you ensure at Welcome Break that your messaging is relatable and genuine and isn't sort of, I don't know, typical top down ivory tower sort of comms?
Well, we're not a typical top down ivory tower sort of business. You've been to our head office. There's no ivory tower, believe me. But it's about bringing the genuine you to work. It's about being authentic. It's about being authentically you and about being an authentic leader, right? If I tried to be something I was not at work, I would soon get found out. This is my typical attire at work. And so if I rocked up in a dress or a suit, somebody would ask me where my interview is today, because that's not what they're used to seeing. And so I think leaders have got to get really comfortable with who are they and being comfortable in their own skin and what is it that they want to say and what message is it that they want to convey. I do think really good comms teams and really good comms managers can help leaders with that message, particularly where they're nervous, in terms of we don't write scripts, we give bullet points to people, right? And I'm much better with a bullet point than trying to remember a script. And what I can then do, what I help my colleagues do, is build their own narrative around that. And so we will make sure that when we're doing anything, that there is something to follow. We don't expect people to come and do, a podcast or a video about our goals or our values and not tell them what it is that we want them to cover. But we kind of go, here's the freedom to do that within a framework. Just, don't swear, don't be inappropriate.
Yeah.
But bring you and bring your personality to that. I've got reels of me with bloopers and swearing and all sorts, and which the team loves seeing it because it just proves that you're genuine and you're authentic, and we also get it wrong, right? I think people would be amazed, and have been when we've used other people on camera, is this does not always come natural, and there are about 20 takes before we get it right.
What I really like about Welcome Break is number one, you give the space to leaders in the business to show off who they are, their personalities outside of the role of CEO or people director, or whatever that may be. But also you bring in managers, UBNs, so managers from the sites, and sometimes frontline colleagues into company comms, which is really fantastic. And you don't see that everywhere.
I think company comms is really cyclical, and so is employer brand. Do you use real people or don't you? And our entire brand strategy, employer brand strategy at the moment, is about using real people. We talk about life at Welcome Break, and you can be made at Welcome Break. And so all of the people that feature in our posters, whether or not they're customer posters or internal posters, are people that work for us. They're in their uniform, and we showcase them and their talents, and they are talented individuals. And so we want to bring them and their story to life as much as we want to bring the business to life.
Have you got any examples of a campaign that has landed exceptionally well and has delivered a step change of some sort at Welcome Break?
Yeah, I think our Pridecast series from a couple of years ago was the big changing moment for us. One, in terms of doing it in a podcast style, but I think it really helped bring our kind of EDI strategy to life as well. And it took quite a bold member of the senior leadership team to say, do you know what, I'm going to put myself out there. And in previous roles, he'd never done that. He'd never been quite as comfortable. So for him to do that with us and share that very publicly, that and wanting to front those podcasts, and what we saw was those kind of first 4 podcasts, I think it was 4 that we did, was bringing in people to talk about their lived experience. So what does it mean to be part of the community? What does it mean to be an ally? And what's the history that sits behind some of that? And what's the history that sits behind Pride? And why do you celebrate it? Why do we have a whole month of celebration? What that meant was that year 2, when we did it, people wanted to tell a different story about their life. And this year we won't front it from a leadership perspective. But what it has done is it's accelerated our networking resource group agenda, because people now want to come together as a community and are happy to talk as a group of individuals. And so whilst we've done Pridecasts around LGBTQ, we've also done a lot around our mental health area. We've done a lot about women at Welcome Break and women in leadership that sits outside of our on International Women's Day, for example. And that campaign was so prevalent, it got people talking in the business. It got out of our business and into a kind of wider network as well, where people have asked us, what did you do? How did you set it up? How did it land? Because there was a nervousness of, oh, this is quite bold. Like, this is quite bold for us as a business, and this is quite bold in terms of putting it on to video. What if we say something wrong? What if we say the wrong word or we use the wrong terminology, the wrong phrase? But stuff like that moves on and moves on at pace. And so we can't judge today by yesterday's standards. And that was a step change for us, both in our comms strategy in terms of how much more video content can we use, rather than just once a year, here's our goals. How much more content can we use? And how are people consuming it, and what works and what doesn't work? And actually, this is what that's got us to is, one, we need to move our inclusion agenda, just that step change further forwards. But actually, how do people engage in the content we want to put out? And video became much more prevalent for us then as a result.
Where does humour play a part in comms at Welcome Break?
Yes, it does. But you've got to get the right person and the right topic. And so some of it is, we do a annual goals video every year. Is there a bit of humour in that? Probably. Does it always come out? No, not necessarily, because it's us telling the team, these are our company goals and this is what we're all getting behind. The outtakes of it are hilarious. But we've done some really funny content videos, which more so are about showcasing our personality. I think people look at a leadership team and go, oh, they're really scary, or we can't talk to them, and actually as a leadership team, we're quite visible. We're visible across the business. None of us could do Undercover Boss, that's for sure. Me in particular. And even our chief exec, John, he gets involved with some of that. And we launched a new comms and engagement platform late last year, and we were breaking up with our old provider, moving to a new provider. So we did a breakup video, which was, and actually, it brings some humour, it brings some personality to it, and actually people can then go, oh, they can laugh at themselves as well as us.
Fantastic. And I remember that video. Well, as a few months ago, and it was very different, very unique, and we loved it as well, being part of that, because you were taking quite a dry message, which, if it was just I don't know, a piece of written comms that went out, or a video just saying, look, we're moving to this new platform, it might just get ignored and lost.
And it was moving to a new platform, but taking that to your chief exec, saying, hey, like, we've got this really crazy idea, we want you to be part of it, and we don't want to do a boring look down the front of the camera type piece. We want to have a bit of fun, and this is the style we want to do it in. It was going to go one of two ways. It was going to go, yeah, come on, let's have a crack at it, let's have a laugh, or I was going to get a hard no.
Yeah.
Thankfully, on this occasion, we got the, oh, yeah, all right, whatever you want to do. And when we got the brief and were able to kind of go, this could be quite funny. And then when we were filming it, having a laugh and a joke with doing it, and I think that really came across with the finished product. And what that led to was another part of our business doing a similar take on that in their own style, which again we wouldn't have thought we would got to, in terms of let's do some more humorous and natural style of content, which the team loved. The team really enjoyed it because they got to see a little bit more of us as a leadership team, in terms of we do have some personality. We can have fun.
What's your secret? How do you get the CEO of a huge company like Welcome Break to do stuff like that? Because obviously the results speak for themselves. But how have you been able to achieve that?
Trust. Like, it purely comes down to trust. Trust in me as the people director and the leader of our comms and engagement strategy. Trust in our comms team and our comms manager to get that right. Now, he does like to see the stuff before we put it out. We can't just share that. And he likes, obviously, to have the brief up front. But actually challenging that status quo of, we could put out some really boring video content, but it would be pointless because nobody would watch it. Or we'd lose engagement really quickly. But what we saw was, we've got a workforce of something like, just over 6,000 people. That video had nearly 30,000 plays. And so you could then look at that and say, well, everybody watched that 5 times. And now some people will have watched it 10 times and some people won't have watched it once.
How many times did you watch?
How many times did I watch it? Yeah, quite a few. But, but down to, other members of the leadership team saying, can you share that video with me? I want to show my kids. Like, are you going to put it on TikTok? Like, absolutely not. But, and where that comes down to is the trust in us, the trust in our suppliers to get the message right and to not make us feel like we're a bit of an idiot.
Mm.
And, so that's worked. And then we've done some similar stuff for our conference where it's not just been John and I, it's been the whole senior leadership team having a spin off and a laugh at ourselves and letting people see that actually we are humans as well at the same time. We go home to our families and have the same laughs and jokes as everybody else does. We just have some fairly big jobs to do during the day.
Brilliant. I think it's probably a good point to wrap up on, Nic. It's been really interesting talking to you, and particularly the hearing about Priorcast. Obviously, like I said, we've been part of that, but just to hear the impacts of it and how it's evolved, and you wanted to take it to the next level was amazing to hear. Two more questions I do want to ask you though. Some of them just testing. I want to do something where we ask all of our guests the same sort of questions at the end. So I'd like to know what the most difficult part of your job is.
Oh, right. The most difficult part of my job. I think sometimes the most difficult part of this job particularly, and being the people director, is balancing the business decision and knowing I've got to say no to something because it's right for the business, but it's not necessarily right for the individual, and knowing when to stop the fight and then being the balance between, almost being the balance between the boardroom and the team member, right? Because we all want to be liked, right? And we all want to be seen to be that nice person at work. And sometimes I have to make really tough decisions as the people director that are the right decisions for the business, but the team might not necessarily agree with them. And then we have to stand behind each other and go and relate that. I have to get that past my team and I have to get that engagement and buy-in from my team as to why I might be saying that's not right for us right now. And then we have to sell a message further down the line. And sometimes that's really tough because I don't necessarily always agree with it, but I have to front it. And that's okay.
And on the flip side of that, what's your favourite part of your job?
The favourite part of my job is exactly the flip side of that. When I get to go and do exciting things and tell our team that we're doing exciting things for them. And one of the biggest impact things that we have done is a couple of years ago for a summer incentive, we introduced a £1 meal. And it was just after the pandemic, and we wanted to do something for our team. We knew it was like the summer of the staycation. And so holiday companies weren't still running like trips, like holidays abroad, or they were playing catch up from a couple of years of cancellations. And so the roads we knew that year were going to be absolutely rammed. And so if the roads are rammed, then so are we, and it's really busy. So we did this summer incentive where we introduced meals on shift for £1. A team member could have a meal for £1, and we set what they were. And we were getting to the end of that, and we hadn't quite got the analysis in place, so we didn't turn it off straight away. So I was out in the business, and we'd been doing some reflection and some analysis on our summer incentive, and so I was out and talking to some team about what had worked well for the summer, what hadn't, what landed, what didn't, what did they appreciate, what didn't, and I got chatting to this one lady, and she had said the one thing that made the biggest impact to her over the summer were these £1 meals. And I think when you sit in a head office team and you sit and you don't necessarily realise the impact of some of the things that you put into place. And what she told me was her £1 meal had saved her so much money. She was able to treat her kids to a takeaway at the end of the week. And it was the difference between her eating at work and not eating at work. And so I took that story back to the boardroom and said, there is no way we can remove this benefit. We've just gone into an energy crisis. Electricity costs have gone through the roof. And 3 years down the line, that is the most utilised benefit in this business and the one that we fought the most for. And that, I think, is the real positive side of knowing that you've made a positive impact in people's lives for the right reasons, for something that you probably gave very little thought to.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and it's such a great benefit that for colleagues as well. And I've heard people talking about that.
And it's the one thing that we know that we now probably couldn't take away, and we wouldn't take it away. Like it's amazing.
That is it, Nic. Thanks so much for being so open and for your time. I think there's lots in there that the viewers and listeners of this podcast will find value in, and some great insights. And I'm sure there's way more that we could cover, but we'll save all that for another time. But for now, thank you very much, Nic.
Amazing. Thank you.
You can find more episodes of Real Impact on your favourite platform. Follow us on socials and check out our website for more.